Welcome to the ACF Chef's Table webinar series. I'm Rocco Paradiso, and it's so great to be here with each and every one of you today. Thanks so very much for joining today's webinar on kitchen hydrations, sponsored by Squincher. For those that may be a little unfamiliar with the American Culinary Federation, or the ACF, we're the leading organization for culinary and hospitality professionals. We offer education, certification, and a community for chefs and food service leaders. And guess what? If you're not already a member, today's webinar is such a great example of the valuable resources that we offer. And what about this? Let's not forget, folks, that we are 31 days away from the National Convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So make sure that you register at acfchefs.org. That's acfchefs.org. At this convention, we've got over 100 plus exhibitors that are going to be there showcasing and supporting the ACF and its members. And speaking of exhibitors, how about Squincher? Squincher will be there at booth 101, so make sure that you stop by, say hello, and hydrate throughout the convention. Today, we're going to be joining Chef Mario Arena and heat science specialist Bubba Wolford as they walk through the dangers of heat exposure in the kitchen and preventative measures that you can implement to help. Feel free to ask questions using the Q&A function at any time. So let's start by doing this. How hydrated are you? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being an arid desert and 5 being like, man, I drink like a gallon of water a day. Put that in the chat so we can go ahead and see where you're from. Now, that being said, folks, let's meet today's presenters. Chef Mario Arenas serves as the Director of Culinary Innovation for Kent for Consumer Brands, where he leads culinary product development, menu ideation, and operator-focused innovation across the company's portfolio of food service brands. With a background in professional kitchens and large-scale product development, Chef Mario bridges culinary creativity with real-world operational execution, helping operators bring new menu concepts to life that are both inspiring and practical. And with over 3 decades of experience in exercise physiology and industrial wellness, Bubba Wolford is a nationally recognized advocate for workplace hydration and health optimization. As a director of corporate development and training for over 17 years, Bubba is the driving force behind strategic outreach to corporations promoting hydration, education, and implementing programs tailored to the unique needs of industrial workforces. His leadership has reached thousands of frontline workers, safety professionals, and corporate leaders with the importance of hydration safety. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to the Squincher team. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Rocco. We want to welcome everyone today and thank you personally for spending time with us on a very important topic our kitchen faces every day. I'm confident this audience is well aware kitchen temperatures can push well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Ovens, fryers, stoves, open fire, every piece of equipment contributes to the overall kitchen atmosphere. We want to be clear that kitchen heat is a very real and must not be overlooked.
As a heat specialist, I firmly agree with Chef Mario, and I want the audience to understand the severity. We also want to understand kitchens have come under the microscope from other governing bodies who have taken notice of the extreme heat.
Here we are, we have 3 main topics we want to cover today. Kitchen heat is real. Kitchen staff is your #1 asset, and the Squincher brand brings over 50 years of hydration safety.
As we walk through these topics, because of heat in your environment, we want to bring to the forefront what issues you face and how it can affect the entire operation.
I'm glad Mr. Wolford has led us to this operational perspective. I've been in the industry for 30 years and experienced these scenarios. I think everyone would agree with the following characteristics of our kitchen environment. And we know it is fast-paced, very intense, 10 to 12-hour shifts. We're on our feet all the time. We don't take a lot of breaks, and especially during peak dining hours. Among all of this, we try to keep focus and avoid other kitchen hazards. Now, I'm going to ask the audience, what do those characteristics look like when we factor in the heat and physical exertion? We definitely have a high impact, intense, and risky work environment.
You really do, Chef. This is the area in which I focus. In my level of expertise, this is where I conduct a full facility assessment to evaluate the risk and help companies engage in a plan. We always start by addressing the daily workload, heat potential, and individual employee involvement. I want to emphasize the heat within this environment. The reason being, it escalates heat stress. Our number one leading factor toward heat stress is dehydration. I don't know if everyone realizes that only 2% of dehydration has a very significant impact on a person and their performance.
Hey, Bubba, please allow me to interrupt right here. I just wanted our audience to know that I was astonished when I learned that statistic. We really don't give it enough attention. Hey, Bubba, please continue and elaborate if you don't mind.
My pleasure. Allow me to pause for a moment and make sure we are all on the same playing level and understand the true meaning of dehydration. Dehydration is the body experiencing a fluid imbalance. In other words, you have more output than you have input. You're not replenishing those critical fluids lost fast enough. Now, again, let's factor in the heat. This escalates the entire scenario. Sweat is something we're all familiar with. When that exertion outpaces your intake, we become dehydrated and we're in that danger zone. Let's revisit the 2%. Just 2%, that's it, affects mood and cognitive function. As the staff gets further into their shift, the 2% progresses. There is more work and less breaks. This puts the level of risk beyond moody and deeper into heat stress and probably experiencing several different symptoms: headache, dizziness, or even fainting, muscle cramps, nausea, and vomiting.
Okay, Bubba, this is what I want to stress at this point of our discussion, okay? I don't want to overlook our hot environment. It is real, right? But as you pointed out, Bubba, when dehydration sneaks up on us, we are the most volatile to other parts of our surroundings. You mentioned performance. In my mind, this means productivity. I not only want to get my orders out front, but I want them to be quality to what my customers are expecting, right? So with that, what you have described, all of that is at jeopardy with something as simple as 2% dehydration. You know, Bubba, I recall back in 2021, our industry was experiencing a rise against heat and specific work conditions. We can't deny that heat is real and it plays a part in our day-to-day operations.
Exactly, Chef. If we ignore the heat within this environment, there is so much risk.
Bubba, I want to finish that thought by mentioning the kitchen surroundings. As dehydration weakens our judgment, a kitchen's hot surfaces, sharp utensils, slippery floors, like from a spill, our environment just becomes more hazardous, right? So I think this is a great lead into topic number 2, kitchen staff. Each employee in our operation, they are our number one asset.
No doubt. This is what it's all about. To be as productive as possible means keeping the staff safe, heat stress aware, and well equipped to defend against it.
Hey, Bob, I want to pause right there, okay? When it comes to the kitchen, nobody would disagree. We wanted the best staff and the best equipment to be a successful kitchen, right? This combination means that you put the best recipes on the plates and keep those patrons coming back. That's the name of the game.
Mario, I believe for you to do that, you must keep your employees as a top priority while you examine the environment they are working in. Before we go too far from heat and dehydration, let me start this topic by adding. Studies show that dehydration can cut physical performance by 20% in normal temperatures. With rising heat, the number can jump to 50%. This confirms what we just discussed, that we experience slower reflexes, foggy thinking, and fatigue. This will lead to mistakes that cost time, money, and more importantly, worker safety. So the question becomes, what are we going to do about it?
Now, Bubba, that's a topic that grabs everyone's attention. Money, buddy. Kitchens are on a tight budget, as we know. There are so many factors that one can drive up operational costs. This adds pressure to be as efficient and innovative as possible while maintaining the same output and quality. How exactly can heat stress and dehydration impact the operation from a financial perspective?
Hey, I'll give you an example.
Of course.
Let's say we have a 2% dehydrated staff member that is prepping an item for a particular dish. This particular prep involves knives. Let's say we have a cutting incident. It's deep, stitches are required. Maybe we can go so far as losing a finger because of some other sophisticated cutting apparatus. We obviously end up with an injured employee some degree. Someone has to pick up the slack given the recent employee's departure. Perhaps this particular injury causes multiple absences.
Bubba, this stuff happens all the time, unfortunately.
For sure it does, Jeff. So let's keep that scenario in mind as we look at the money factor. I give this example to lead us into the NEC or the National Safety Council and take a look at their injury cost stats. I want to call attention to their medical consulted injury cost. That's $48,000 real money. That dollar amount includes estimated wage losses, medical expenses, administrative expenses, and employer cost. What it doesn't include is death expenses. We just mentioned the employee absence. Do not have enough staff to cover. Can you have the same output with less people? The one who fills in, are they as productive? Things can begin to compound quickly, costing the operation more and more money.
Well, but that's a serious matter for both employee safety and what it can cost an establishment. I want to add something here, Bubba, if you don't mind, okay? I'd like to share exactly how this looks in our food service industry when speaking about restaurants. You know, it's interesting, you used the laceration example. That is one of the leading kitchen incidents. According to a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, workers in full service restaurants experienced a total of 93,800 non fatal injuries and illnesses over the course of 1 year. Of these, approximately 33% were serious enough to result in days away from work. We can definitely make application and see the point.
Yes, sir. It is definitely worth more discussion and reason to activate a prevention plan. But, Mario, do not overlook the application. As a heat specialist, I wonder how many within those stats could have been from an onset of dehydration that initiated the fatigue. Who wouldn't get a little careless? I think if we think back to the hypothetical example we just shared, dehydration can absolutely be an underlying cause of the occurrence of any accident. What's very sobering is dehydration is something we can absolutely prevent.
But this is very true. Earlier, you mentioned governing bodies. I was wanting you to share exactly what you were referring to, please.
Well, Chef, I wanted everybody to be aware of OSHA, OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They are the rule-making body for safety for the U.S. government. This group has introduced their NEP, or National Emphasis Program, focusing on indoor and outdoor heat hazards and how to regulate these high-risk industries.
So, Bubba, by the inclusion of indoor in these NEPs, I'm assuming this would capture our industry, right?
Yes, spot on, Chef. Back in 2022, OSHA launched their NEP with focus on inspections and ensuring employee safety against high heat industries. No doubt, restaurants are in that list and they're on their radar, and rightfully so. As of April of this year, they have implemented a 5-year extension of the NEP as they finalize the exact legislation of the heat rule that they're wanting to implement for full heat protection. To add to the health department inspections this industry already deals with, we are getting closer to future OSHA inspections at the kitchen level, and I would say this year we're already there.
Wow, Bubba, I see what you mean. Possible fines and citations for non-compliance to OSHA heat regulation?
Yes, it's real. I even have some examples of restaurants getting what they call heat alert awareness letters. Now we are back to the money proposition. Again, let's keep the bottom line protective. To summarize the NEP intentions, what they look to put in place is having all high-risk industries implement a heat injury prevention plan. With a plan like this in place, it tells them you're actively providing means to prevent heat stress and heat illness.
All right, Bubba, you said the magic words, help. This brings us to our final topic, everyone, the Squincher brand. Here, how can you and this brand help our kitchens, Bubba?
Let me be very clear, Chef. Regardless of what happens with OSHA's pending legislation, the heat, your employees, and your bottom line are most important. These three things are not going anywhere and need immediate attention. I would like to add, individual states have begun to adopt their own indoor and heat plans to protect the workplace. And I can tell you, new states are coming on every year. Putting your plan in place is priority. The heat and intense work in the kitchen is not to be taken lightly. I like to put it this way: an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Preventing and avoiding operational hazards will grant us the least path of resistance toward success.
I couldn't agree more, Bubba.
So, Squincher brand can help. We do it every day. Everyone will say we have water in the kitchen. You may even hear we have sodas on tap. However, water alone will not put the minerals back that you are losing in this heated environment. Soda actually is a deep diuretic, which will escalate dehydration because you will go to the bathroom more. People don't realize consumption before and after shifts have an effect on hydration. For instance, caffeinated drinks and alcohol are both diuretics. They have a direct impact on your fluid retention. You must have an electrolyte. Not just an electrolyte, but one that's proven in an industry like this.
You know, Bubba, this is one of my favorite facts about Squincher that not many know. This brand's been keeping workers safe for over 50 years, buddy.
We sure have, Chef. We actually were the second electrolyte manufacturer in the country right after Gatorade in 1975. And we hope for another 50 years of what we've been doing to try to get people home safe every day. That is our goal, to get the moms and the dads and the uncles and the sisters and the brothers home so they can be productive there with their family. We have always taken pride in the fact that we are not just about selling products, we're about offering solutions that make everyone's surroundings better. We take hydration very, very seriously. Hydration safety is Squincher's DNA. Take a look at some of the names we service across the country and even the globe. That's the biggest of the biggest, from airlines, steel mills, bottling companies, oil manufacturing, oil producers, you name it. Food producers, we're in those plants protecting their folks every day. Squincher hydration has actually become PPE.
PPE. Hey, Bubba, do me a favor. Can you explain to the audience, what do you mean by PPE?
Well, in the industrial world, PPE stands for personal protective equipment. And since COVID, more people are familiar with PPE because they were referring to the respiratory products, the mask, etc. For instance, a hard hat, steel-toed boots, hearing protection, again, mask. For Squincher, we become internal PPE, keeping the body safe and performing at its best.
Wow. So after everything we've just identified during today's discussion so far, Bubba, here's the big question. Does Squincher have any kitchen solutions?
Most certainly. Since the NEP announcement a few years ago, back in 22, we proactively transformed existing offerings and kits to service the food service and restaurant industry, specifically for back of the house hydration safety. This industry now has an ally when it comes to heat stress prevention and hydration safety. We welcome a full assessment of your operation. We offer heat stress training to help the staff identify problems and how to look out for those obvious signs. We want your operation focused on delicious dining, not is my staff safe and able to make it through the shift. As we come close to the close, here's what I want you to expect from Squincher Hydration. First, we have a diversified portfolio of products to meet many types of demanding hydration solutions. We offer fine powder and liquid concentrates in both single serve and bulk applications. And last but not least, our flagship product, the Squincher Squeeze Freezer Pops. We're confident any kitchen staff will enjoy Squincher and appreciate the fact that they are getting exceptional taste, 3 formulas to choose from, and hydration developed to meet multiple dietary preferences. When Squincher came in existence in 1975, it was formulated with 2 key factors. It was designed with low sodium due to the fact we noticed the American diet was too high in sodium. Potassium was then increased for muscle recovery and cramps.
Wow, Bubba. Amazing. Hey, Bubba, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you assisting me with today's presentation. And most of all, thank you to the American Culinary Federation as host of today's event. Now, everyone, we hope everyone has benefited from being here and leaves with a better understanding about these topics as we look to improve our kitchen's work environment. Thank you.
That was a great job, gentlemen. Seriously, thank you very, very much. And there's quite a few questions that came in, but let me start with this, right? Because I am one of those individuals that, I like to do my research. So I went ahead and I ordered some Squincher, right? And I got to tell you, phenomenal, phenomenal. It's the fruit punch. And we're probably not allowed to say the brand, but drinking this is very reminiscent of a big hefty red fella is going to bust through my wall at any time going, oh yeah, because that's what it reminds me of. It's very, very good. So awesome job there. But you had talked a little bit about that I wrote it down, my apologies, heat injury prevention plan, right? So is that something that OSHA is putting out, or is that something that we as workers and people that are running the restaurants, is that something that we need to know about? Am I making sense with that question?
Yeah, absolutely. With OSHA, with the NEP, there's certain applications to a heat stress prevention program that they want to see. So, for example, they want a dedicated person to basically administrate their hydration safety plan.
Okay.
And that plan needs to be written. Prior to 2002, before the NEP, OSHA did not stipulate that it had to be written. And then they look for other things like signage for heat awareness that, it's 85 degrees today and we need to take precautions. Training is a big thing. Also, acclimatization of the workers. They have a new employee come in that's not used to the heat. They need to have a 2 to 3 week program to gradually introduce them into the heat so there's not an accident. And there's more to it, but those are the things those inspectors are going to look for, and they will be coming, I can tell you.
Well, and one of the other things too was for dehydration, right? As little as 2% dehydration can cause fuzziness in the head. What can constitute for that 2% dehydration? Like I live in Florida. I walk out and get my mail and I come back sweating. So I mean, and I'm not trying to make a joke, but I'm saying like, could that consider 2%? Because I'm just thinking it's a lot hotter than that in a kitchen.
Absolutely. So if you're coming in, let's just say that you had a few drinks the night before and then you got up and you started banging the coffee to try to get over that hangover, and you still haven't introduced water into the system, and you go into a heated environment, that 2% is going to jump up quick because you have very little water in your system, no electrolytes,
Mm.
and you're already in a danger zone. We always teach in our training, come to work hydrated, drink water, drink electrolytes before you have that first cup of coffee, and then even after.
Yeah. And where are these products available from?
These products are available all over your safety distribution networks, food service, Amazon.
Mhm.
Pretty much you can find Squincher anywhere, as we are the leader in industrial heat safety.
Are they
Hey, Rocco.
FDA? I'm sorry, go ahead, Chef.
I'm sorry. Also, and for our food service chefs out there on the webinar, these are Stockton Dot Foods.
Okay.
So a lot of your broadline distributors that y'all are using can access that through the Dot network. Just ask your sales rep, hey, I need some of that Squincher, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you out. Sorry to interrupt.
No, 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 not at all. And then FDA approved, I have to imagine, yes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things too, so when I was in sales, I was always trying to be the consultant, So for me, I would go in and especially too when we're talking about like assisted livings, nursing homes. We were talking about this earlier on, Chef. Like my parents were there and they would always have water. They would always have these water jugs out for these folks, but I never saw those water jugs empty. And I got to imagine why. Well, because I don't know, I don't want to be drinking water at 80 something years old. But if I had an ice pop that would allow for me to have all these electrolytes, if I had something that was delicious, or hey, you know what, one quick shot of that and then put it in your glass of water, now we're talking. So again, it's like for those individuals that are out there, even like at pools, like if I'm in Miami in the middle of summer, I would love to have something like this by the pool. So it's a great way for as chefs, as operators, country clubs, I think would be a great spot for this as well. And again, you can't stay hydrated enough. And I think we were talking about it. We pound water all day long, but we're not putting those electrolytes back in, and we're not fully hydrating ourselves. So
Yeah, and now if I can, I'd like to share a statistic. First time I
please.
saw it, pretty shocking.
Mhm.
The Mayo Clinic says that 75% of the U.S. population is chronically dehydrated.
Wow.
75%. That has nothing to do with heat. That means
Yeah.
we're not drinking enough water.
Uh-huh. Wow. And this is so sugar-free, They're gluten-free, low sodium, low calorie, excellent source of vitamin C. And like I said, man, they brought me right back to drinking that big old pitcher of like I said, I can't say the name just for copyright infringement, but absolutely amazing. And there's multiple flavors out there. There was one that I thought was really cool. Was it citrus mint? I was like, okay, that's going to be really neat. And you guys are going to be at the ACF National Convention, booth 101. Am I correct in thinking that?
Absolutely, Rocco. Come on by. We're going to hydrate everybody at the convention for as long as that convention's running. Stop on over and bring some samples home too.
Yeah. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to drink at those national conventions. So before I
We all
get
do.
anything in my system, it's going to be Squincher first and then coffee and everything else second. This
There
has
you
been
go,
great,
Rock.
and this has been so informative,
It
and that
sure
number
is.
is absolutely staggering. Anything else you want our listeners to know?
Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Rock. Yeah, thanks, Bob. Hey, Rocco. It goes beyond the kitchen, right? In our industry,
Yeah.
you mentioned it. If you're a country club or you're a resort, you got pool staff, you got valet staff. And what about? Let's not forget about those front of the house workers. And you
Hmm.
know what? That goes all the way into your housekeeping staff as well.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be hydrated. Not only us kitchen athletes. There are a bunch of us out there that are doing our day-to-day jobs at the front of the house that maybe not be in that hottest of environments, but you know what? We want them to stay safe and hydrated. So that's my 2 cents. Bubba, what about you?
Yeah, I think if you don't have a hydration safety prevention plan built around the NEP, the OSHA NEP, get one. That's something we can help you with. And that's really the only way you're going to prevent an accident. And, of any safety product out there, it doesn't matter. If they're not trained on how to use it and how to prevent the accident, it's no good. So we're all about prevention, as I said earlier. So we're here to help you. That's what we do. That's our passion at Squincher. You won't find it at any other company out there, any other hydration company out there. All they're trying to do is sell you a drink. We want to sell you a program to get your folks home, keep them more productive while they're there, keep them happier. I mean, if somebody's not feeling real good and you hand them a popsicle, you'd be amazed at how all of a sudden they feel a hell of a lot better.
Mm. No, that's great to hear. And too, it's like I was looking at the companies that you had on the list as well. And we're talking airlines, we're talking there's a lot of factories and there's a lot of warehouses. I've done my fair share of warehouse tours and they get pretty hot. And there's always water and Gatorade, which is all well and good. But again, it's like something just a little bit different. And again, to your point, we're not just trying to sell you a drink. We want to sell you this value-added service. And again, it's a program. It's a complete and total program. And knowing that OSHA is going to be following up on this and there's much more standards, I think now is, the perfect time for us to jump on board. So I think this has been great. This has been super informative and I'm truly appreciative. I personally cannot wait to get to the national convention. So again, we're like 31 days away. So make sure that you all sign up for that. But I will be there and I hope to try some citrus mint. That was one that looked like I was like, yeah, I got to try that. I got to try that. And of course, I am who I am. I'm going to ask this question is, can this be mixed with any sort of alcohol? Have you ever tried that, or am I defeating the purpose?
I would give a big no comment on that.
Understood. Heard. Read between the lines. I get it.
Out
I
there,
love it.
Rocco.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, huge thanks to Squincher. Thank you so very much, Chef Mario Reyna, Bubba
Thank you,
Wolford, and
Rocco.
Brian Elmore. You're in there in the back. I know I saw you earlier, brother. Thank you very much. This was an
Thanks,
informative
Rocco.
presentation. Thank you to Squincher for sponsoring our webinar. Make sure you stop by and see them at booth 101 at the ACF National Convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we appreciate you all taking the time to share your insights on why kitchen hydration and hydration in general is so important. So please be on the lookout for that post-webinar email you'll receive the next day or so. We're going to have the webinar recording. We're going to have the PowerPoint and a CEH survey. We hope you're going to join us on June 10th as we have Chef Surendra Rawat, and he's going to present on the traditional cuisine of Himalayan region in honor of June's feature trend, Emerging Flavors. Then on July 29th, we hope you join us as chef and farmer Martha Kimmerly covers the concept of regenerative beef in honor of July's featured trend, which is Meat Resurgent. Visit the media tab on acfchefs.org to register for all these upcoming webinars. And on behalf of the ACF National Office, we'd like to thank again to all of our presenters. What an amazing job for bringing this opportunity. And thank you to each and one of our members for joining us today. I hope you all have the most amazing and hydrated day that you possibly can.